probably for the third time. Anyway, while we're tracking the markets, let's also move on to our next corporate conversation. And this is a company which is at the heart of the capital goods / industrial space. I'm talking about Hitachi Energy, and we'll put up the stock up for you. It actually hasn't rallied. The stock hasn't rallied as much as some of its peers, but it's still done about 30-35% this year. So not too bad. Last 12 months, there you go, 34% gains coming through. So we're talking to this company to find out what the prospects are looking like. Of course, Hitachi Energy had a pretty solid fourth quarter. There was a 20% jump in revenue. They also clocked in the highest ever export orders. To talk about the future, we have Mr. Venu, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer at Hitachi Energy, joining in. Good morning, sir. Good to have you on the show. So I was just, studying the financials, and some interesting trends came out. Last year, your order book doubled. I think from under 5,000 crores, it shot up to above, 7,000 odd crores. The 50% gain in the order book. But at the revenue level, the gain was, I think, around in the teens, somewhere around, I think, 15, 16%, a little lower than that. So I think what the street is trying to understand, A, is whether you'll keep getting this kind of order book growth. I mean, will you again grow at 50% this year, given the environment we're in? And B, more importantly, is when do we get the P&L trickle down? How will execution be, and when will the revenue growth start matching up to this very strong order book growth?
Yeah. So thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having me here. And so it's a pleasure to be here. As you know that we are in the business of providing mission critical technology for our customers, whether it is utilities, industries, or infrastructure customers. So our technology, be it product, system, services, is a bridge between the generation and the consumption. So that's where our play around, whether it is enabling the renewables or enabling the transmission and also consumption standpoint. As you know that the energy transition is quite a lot, quite a big opportunities for all of us. And this energy transition is driving a lot of growth in our own sphere, what we call as the high growth segments, whether it is a transmission or HVDC or the renewable and electrification of, like, for example, rail sector. All those things are really driving energy sector growth in those kind of segments where we have a huge play in that, and that has reflected in our orders last year. So last year, we, in addition to growing in our base orders, we also had a large order of HVDC project for city infeed to the Mumbai. So that has fueled growth of more than 80% year-on-year growth of the orders in that. And
so what's the outlook? What's the outlook in terms of?
Coming there, as you know, that the government of India has a very ambitious short-term target of 500 gigawatt of renewable by 2030, 500 gigawatt of transmission corridors by 2030. All these things, we believe that the growth spectrum will continue for a couple of years. And also the net zero of rail, where entire rail wanted to have net zero by 2030, completion of the electrification by next 2 years, 2025. So those are the things where we are seeing a lot of opportunities in terms of the HVDC transmission and things like that. And we believe that this growth momentum may not be to that extent, will continue at least a couple of more years going forward.
Right, Mr. Venu. There are so many segments that you operate in, but very briefly, in a very pointed way, could you explain to us which are the one or two segments which investors should watch for traction, which will do bulk of the heavy lifting in terms of incremental growth for you? And then, wrap that answer up with, say, revenue growth outlook for FY24. What should we expect? And margins as well. Go on.
So let me come to your first point, which Prashant, you're talking about, which are the sectors we need to watch, or which are the segments we need to watch. For example, the transmission, in my view, or in our view, that the transmission market is going to be at least 2 to 3 times more than what it is in the next 4 or 5 years. So that is the one definitely need to do that. Because why it is happening? Because the grid needs to be more and more, and renewable penetration is taking place. The grid needs to be stable and resilient, and that's where the bulk of the projects are coming in. That, if you recall, in your own channel 1 year back, I told you that the HVDC project, large HVDC project, $1 billion kind of projects, we used to have one project in every 4 to 5 years. But that projects are coming for bidding almost every one project per year. So that's the kind of momentum of shift is happening, the technology adoption, those kind of things in there. So transmission and the renewable is definitely need to watch. And the electrification standpoint, electrification is also another one, whether electrification in terms of the transportation sector or industrial sector is fueling the growth in that. So these are the three things. Revenue attrition, as you know, we are a late cycle business. You know, if you take an order to convert into revenue, it will take anywhere between 12 to 15 months, depending on the product lines, things like that. That's why we are saying a strong order growth will fuel the sustainable, growth of our company, and that's how we are focusing on that. And if you recall, I told you also in your own channel that we are taking a lot of actions to grow higher than the market average, and we have also consistently been growing in the last 3 years. That's why our order backlog is more than 7,000 crores, which will continue to yield revenue growth in the going forward.
Can you put a number to it, Mr. Venu? You're saying strong order book growth. Can you just put a number? Your order book grew 50% last year. Should we expect another 50% this year? Some rough number ranges help.
No, numbers I don't like to put it. What I can tell you, I give you pointers. The market is growing right now with a high single digit or very close to double digit. So we want to grow higher than that, and we continue to do that. One is the domestic market.
You'll grow at 1.5 times, sir? You'll grow at 1.5 times the market? 2 times?
No, I don't want to put the number into that, but that's what our take is, that we want to grow higher than the market. That's number one. And
all right, but you'll outgrow the market, so we'll take that on board. Mr. Venu, even the last time as well, we spoke, you were sounding quite optimistic on business. And the positive for me is in your last quarter, that's quarter four's numbers, the March quarter, the margins came in at the highest we've seen, I think, in the last 12 to 13 quarters. Could you tell us what is the scope of improvement from here on? And I believe that in the next couple of years, by 2025, you have a double-digit margin target. Is that correct?
Yeah, what we said that by end of financial year 25, so we wanted to win a double-digit operational EBITDA level, and that's exactly our backlog is building up into that. And the last year, as you know, the margin has impacted is mainly because of the shortage of the semiconductors and then chips, etc., which go into the bulk of our product lines across the businesses, and that has affected. But we're still not out of those things yet. But I think things are becoming better, I would say, and those things should reflect in the later part of the year.
Okay, all right, Mr. Venu, we will leave it on that note for today. Thanks very much. We look forward to a more detailed conversation next time around. Thank you for joining in. That's Hitachi Energy striking an extremely buoyant and optimistic note about the business this year.